Section 5. 5A. Climate Agenda for Children. Section 5 provides an overview of key elements of the international framework for the protection of children's rights in the context of climate change. It also stresses the importance of children's involvement in the international decision-making processes affecting them, as well as governments' responsibility towards children. A proposed climate agenda for children concludes the section. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, the Convention sets out the rights that must be realised for children to develop their full potential, free from hunger and want, neglect and abuse. Human rights are those rights which are essential to live as human beings, basic standards without which people cannot survive and develop in dignity. Human rights are inherent to the human person, inalienable and universal. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, is a key instrument of the international human rights framework. It is the most rapidly and widely ratified international human rights treaty in history. Adopted in 1986, the CRC specifically articulates children's human rights. It offers a vision of the child as an individual and as a member of a family and community, with rights and responsibilities appropriate to his or her age and stage of development. By recognising children's rights in this way, the Convention firmly sets the focus on the whole child. The interconnectedness between climate change and key children's rights issues elevates the CRC as a vital framework and mechanism for protecting children's rights in a changing climate. Children and climate change in post-2015 agreements. The Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. 2015 was a landmark year in efforts to address climate change. In particular, a new global climate agreement, the Paris Agreement, was adopted at COP21 of the UNFCCC in December 2015. Countries pledged their commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to start adapting to climate change impacts, while respecting and promoting human rights, including the rights of children. This commitment goes to the heart of ensuring climate justice and intergenerational equity. Furthermore, 3 other major international agreements have been finalised, which are interlinked with the Paris Agreement and will profoundly impact children's lives. These include the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Children were more involved in the processes culminating in these agreements than they had been in the past, which make the agreements more likely to deliver for children during implementation. Common to all of these agreements is the recognition that children have a right to contribute to creating the future they want as partners in policy making and implementation. Young people's voices in climate change negotiations. Youngo Koi, Young and Future Generation Day. Young people have a long history of participating in the annual United Nations climate meetings, where they challenge governments to create stronger policies to reduce and to respond to climate change. Youth participation includes ongoing engagement with negotiators and creative action to raise awareness of issues that young people feel strongly about. Youngo. In 2009, in response to the growing number of youth organisations engaged in the intergovernmental climate change process, the UNFCCC Secretariat extended constituency status to admitted youth non-governmental organisations, NGOs, allowing them to receive official information, participate in meetings, request speaking slots, and receive logistical support at UNFCCC conferences. In just a few years, the UNFCCC constituency of youth non-governmental organisations, YOUNGO, YOUNGO, has developed into a vibrant network of over 2,000 youth activists. COY, the Conference of Youth, COY, has been an essential part of the Youth Delegates calendar since 2005. Held annually on the weekend prior to the start of the year-end United Nations Climate Change Conference, the COY brings young people from around the world together to build the capacity of the international youth climate movement. Young and Future Generation Day, video courtesy of UNFCCC.
To you world leaders, this is a childish wake-up call.
So we are here to give you the world's simplest lesson in climate change.
This is what will happen to a planet with too much CO2.
I am very touched by your decision to choose this message for your t-shirts, because from the point of youth, these three are not separate chapters, because there is a very, very compelling mandate, but there's also an imperative. There's a moral imperative, there's a technical imperative, there's a financial imperative, there is a political imperative, and finally, there is a generational imperative here. And from your point of view, these three are not separate chapters, they do come together, and they come together now. Thank you for this very nice opening of Youth Day. I know we're going to be having many other activities today that I very much look forward to. Okay, your presence at the COP is important to remind us all, but it's also what you're doing at home, because that is where the rubber hits the ground. That is where you can really make a true difference. So thank you for both.
Children are the future, and it's for them and for their children that we are here and that we work 24 hours a day to try and secure an ambitious climate agreement here in Paris. And we are writing history.
So many communities are suffering. So many people are suffering. There are so many climate refugees around the planet that are seeing the worst of the effects, and it's only going to continue from there unless action is taken today. And now more than ever, we have the opportunity to take action, because now is the time that our generation stands up to be leaders today. Let's create the right partnerships. Let's build the correct future that we want to pass on to, that we're proud of passing on to future generations. Thank you.
This is not just a COP, this is the COP of your generation.
Just a few words to say how much France is proud to receive COP21. And de saluer Cristina Figueres, who is making a fantastic work, a huge work, to make from this COP21 a real success.
So we want to show you how are young people going to be if we continue in the same path that we are right now. And was that dead? Yeah.
Governments and children's protection. Governments have the responsibility to protect children from the impacts of a changing climate. Governments need to mobilise long-term climate finance and distribute it to benefit the most vulnerable, including women and children. Young people are best placed to identify their own risks, needs and capacities. Involving them in the fight against climate change is very important. But children can't do it alone. They need adults to fulfil their commitments to children's rights. Governments are key to this effort and to ensuring the concrete implementation of international commitments. A climate change agenda for children. There are concrete steps that the world can take now to safeguard our children's future and their rights. 1. Cut greenhouse gas emissions so that global temperature increases are limited to a maximum of 2 degrees Celsius, and ideally to 1.5 degrees Celsius. 2. Make the needs of the most vulnerable, including children, central to climate change adaptation. 3. Reduce inequality among children now to promote their future resilience to climate change. 4. Listen to and act on children's perspectives on climate change. 5. Provide children and young people with climate change education, awareness raising and training. 6. Scale up proven approaches to address the changing needs of children. 7. Align and coordinate work on climate change adaptation, preparedness and disaster risk reduction. 8. Put in place measures to protect children who have been displaced, migrate or are refugees as a result of climate change or climate-related impacts. 9. Invest in children when implementing national climate plans on mitigation and adaptation. 10. Everyone should get involved. Protecting the planet and protecting our children go hand in hand, and both can be achieved if we all act now. Module summary. Children represent the largest group of people affected by climate change and one of the most vulnerable. Climate change affects children both directly and indirectly, exacerbating existing inequities. Child-centered adaptation, as well as mitigation policies and measures, can greatly benefit children. Education is key to empowering children. It provides them with knowledge, skills, and tools for addressing climate change. While being victims of climate change, children are at the same time powerful actors of change. They can promote transformation at the local, national, and international level. It is important to involve children in the decision-making processes affecting them. International instruments exist for governments to ensure the protection of children and their rights in a changing climate. Taking action now is crucial to ensure a better future for our children and our planet.